Being alive on this planet is like winning the ultimate lottery. Earth is an extraordinary place. There's water, animals, birds, trees, mountains, oceans, technology, art, and so much more. No other planet that we've explored even comes close. Mars? Empty. Jupiter? Just a big ball of gas. Our telescopes and probes haven't found even a single microscopic organism elsewhere. But Earth is bursting with life and endless possibilities. It's a happening place, a once-in-a-universe opportunity. So why aren't you having a good time? Life is beautiful, but the mind has a way of convincing us otherwise. It focuses on what's wrong. Your relationships, wars, politics, environmental damage, personal failures, or what someone said to you years ago. It's like going to Disney World and fixating on the negatives, the heat, the food, or the people around you, rather than enjoying the rides, the atmosphere, and the magic. Does this mean you shouldn't care about making the world better? Of course not. We're here to contribute, to improve, and to make the planet even more beautiful. But we're not here to constantly complain or focus on everything that's wrong. That mindset only drags us down. You can always choose to see what's good, to appreciate the beauty and wonder of being here. Yes, your mind will come up with an endless list of grievances, everything that went wrong in your life, all the disappointments, and every unfair thing that's happened. But none of that changes the fact that this is an incredible place to be. The challenge isn't about changing the world to suit your mind. It's about changing your perspective so you can see just how lucky you are to be alive on this amazing planet. Instead of appreciating and respecting the beauty and diversity of life, the colors, the shapes, the experiences, we often get lost in complaining. Somehow you've convinced yourself that complaining is not just okay, but justified. But let's be honest, nobody likes constant complainers. Think about it. How do you feel when your child complains non-stop, or when someone at work is always griping about something? You don't enjoy their company. And yet, if you look closely, you'll see that's what you spend much of your time doing, complaining about how things are. The problem is that you believe your complaints are valid. You think, why shouldn't I complain? But not complaining doesn't mean ignoring problems or not trying to make things better. At some point, you need to step back and ask yourself, why am I having so much trouble here? I've talked to you before about this incredible planet we live on, but many of you don't seem to hear me. A few do. That's not just the Earth, it's you too. You're here for a brief time, and whether or not the planet explodes, you're going to leave someday. So, with this limited time on the most beautiful planet ever discovered, how can you justify spending it complaining? Imagine being dropped off at Disney World for a few hours and spending the whole time complaining about the lines or the food. Wouldn't that seem silly? If you do that, it's not the world's fault. It's your mind creating the problem. Why does your mind complain? Because things aren't the way it wants them to be. That's the only reason. If something doesn't align with your desires, you complain. But what's the point of that? Everyone is different. Some people love things you hate. There are people who re-enlist to fight in wars, while you may hate the very idea of war. Some people can sit for hours playing chess, while you might find it unbearably boring. People are unique, and the world doesn't revolve around what you want. If you expect the world to always align with your preferences, you're setting yourself up for a lifetime of disappointment. Why? Because everyone has their own wants and needs. If the world only worked the way you wanted, it would cause problems for everyone else. That's why it's essential to recognize that the world isn't built to cater to one person's desires. It unfolds according to natural laws, the laws of creation, physics, chemistry, and even psychology. People behave the way they do because of their life experiences, which shape their personalities and actions. That's psychology, a science, albeit not an exact one like physics, but still based on observable principles. So when you interact with others, you're dealing with a world shaped by countless forces far beyond your control. The key is to stop fighting against reality and start appreciating it. Life isn't perfect, and it never will be, but it's still extraordinary. Complaining won't change the world, but shifting your perspective will change how you experience it. Use your time wisely. Appreciate what's here. Work to improve what you can and let go of the rest. The way things are in the world is determined by the forces that shape them. It's all based on science. A person behaves the way they do because of countless factors that have influenced them throughout their life. It could be something major like their upbringing, or something as small as what they ate for dinner, the phone call they just received, or the random thoughts passing through their mind. All of these factors play a role in how someone acts, and you are only a very minor part of that equation. We tend to think of ourselves as more important than we are, but you are not the creator of another person. You don't control their actions or thoughts. What you're interacting with, in reality, is the result of the laws of nature, the forces of life at work. It rains when it rains, it snows when it snows, it's hot when it's hot, and it's cold when it's cold. The mountains are where they are, and people behave the way they do because of their own unique circumstances. They're not going to act the way you want them to act. Is that okay with you? For most people, the answer is no. They'll complain that things aren't the way they want them to be. At its most basic level, spirituality is about understanding and aligning with the reality of life, much like science. It's about recognizing that if you complain about everything that doesn't go your way, you'll spend your entire life complaining. Why? Because you cannot force the world to be exactly how you want it to be. Some people focus on trying to attract what they want in life through sheer willpower or belief. While it's true that you can influence certain things, the idea that you can manipulate the entire universe to align with your desires is flawed. The atoms that make up the world are already in motion, influenced by countless forces. And if you somehow bend them to your will, someone else won't get what they wanted. It's a limited and self-centered way to approach life. A wise person realizes that life is not about getting everything they want. That's a narrow and exhausting goal. Instead, life is about understanding why you struggle to honor, respect, and appreciate the world as it is. It doesn't mean you don't take action or try to make improvements. It's not about passively letting life run over you. What's being taught here is that your starting point must be acceptance. Why? Because acceptance is grounded in reality. Think of the Wright brothers when they wanted to invent the airplane. They couldn't ignore gravity and expect to fly. They had to deeply understand the forces that kept flight from happening. Only then could they create something that worked with those forces. Similarly, in life, you can take action and make changes, but your foundation must be an acceptance of the way things are. You need to understand the laws of nature, the laws of creation, and even the laws of psychology. Psychology teaches us that people are a product of their life experiences. Their thoughts, feelings, and behaviors are shaped by what they've been through. Everyone has had different experiences, which is why everyone is different. It's simply the truth. While you are not your psyche or your experiences, they are not the essence of who you are. They do influence how you think and feel. So to expect other people to act exactly how you want is unrealistic. It's a joke. There's no chance that people will always behave the way you wish, because their life experiences are not the same as yours. What's going on inside them is different from what's going on inside you. And that's not a bad thing. It's just the way it is. Understanding and accepting this truth is the first step to living in harmony with reality. Higher beings have moved beyond their ego and the limitations of their psyche. While they still have a psyche, just as everyone does, they are not controlled by it. When their psyche reacts with thoughts like, I don't like this or that person irritates me, they don't let it dictate their actions. Instead, they can simply let those thoughts go. If someone says or does something that would normally bother them, they shrug it off. They understand that people don't always align perfectly, and that's okay. It's not a big deal. These evolved individuals operate from a deeper place than just their learned experiences. But this doesn't mean they lack experiences. It means they are not enslaved by them. Their learned experiences don't run their lives. The key question is, are your past experiences controlling you? Are you addicted to listening to the chatter of your mind shaped by those experiences? For most people, the answer is yes. All over the world, nearly everyone is stuck in this cycle, except for those very rare and highly evolved beings who have risen above it. To truly evolve, you must move beyond being a prisoner of your own learned experiences. Your psyche is the sum of all your past experiences, and everyone's experiences are different. What bothers one person might not bother someone else at all, and vice versa. How could it be any other way? If the psyche is built from individual experiences, and no two people have lived the same life, then naturally we all see and react to the world differently. Trying to make everyone's reactions or perspectives the same is not just impossible, it's missing the point entirely. If we take John Lennon's vision of imagine all the people living life in peace, that kind of harmony would only be possible if we could transcend the parts of ourselves that are tied to these learned experiences. But what does it mean to transcend them? It's not about denying your experiences or pretending they don't exist. Instead, it's about recognizing that they don't have to control you. Consider this. Every single one of us has already transcended a part of our nature to some degree. For example, you've risen above your animal instincts. Humans share many drives with animals: survival, territoriality, procreation. But we don't let these instincts dictate every action. Yes, you still have these drives, but you've learned to manage them in a way that allows you to coexist in society. You're not clawing people to death over territory or acting on every impulse like a wild animal. That's evolution. Of course, some people are better at managing these drives than others. Society itself has had to learn how to create systems and rules to help individuals balance these primal instincts. If we hadn't done this, society wouldn't function. We'd all be living in chaos. At the same time, it's not healthy to completely suppress these natural drives either. Suppressing everything can lead to internal conflict and make you miserable. The key is finding balance. This balance is similar to what Freud described with his concepts of the ED, ego and superego. Freud was a pretty smart guy. He recognized the need to balance our primal urges, the ED, our societal rules, the superego, and our conscious self, the ego. However, Freud's work mainly focused on suppression and control, on how we manage these forces. What he didn't emphasize as much is who is doing the controlling. The truth is, you are more than your ego or your psyche. Something deeper, your consciousness, is what holds this together. Your consciousness is the observer, the one who can decide whether to act on a thought or let it pass. The problem is that most of us let our consciousness get lost in the chatter of the psyche. Instead of being the one in control, we become a victim of our thoughts, emotions, and past experiences. To evolve further, you must step back and recognize that your consciousness is separate from your psyche. Your thoughts and experiences are not you. They're just patterns running in your mind. Once you see this clearly, you can begin to let go of the need to control or suppress. Instead, you can allow life to unfold, accepting it as it is, while making balanced, conscious choices about how you interact with the world. This is the path to true freedom and peace. Inner evolution means the ability to rise above the limitations of your psyche, just as outer evolution meant rising above the primal drives of our animal nature. Can you transcend the fact that your psyche is essentially a collection, a sum, of your learned experiences? This is something I've talked about many times. But the real question is, do you understand it? Do you accept it? Do you honor this truth? Every single thing you like, dislike, or complain about is tied to your past experiences. Think about how you interact with people. Your relationships and the way you behave are shaped by the impressions made on you through experiences. You don't need to consciously study these impressions. They happen naturally, all the time. They come in throughout your day, forming patterns in your psyche without you even realizing it. Let me give you an example. Imagine you meet someone new and you really like them. Maybe they mention they lived near a place where you used to live, and suddenly you feel a connection. That one small detail ties into a positive past experience, and it opens you up to them. Or maybe they remind you of someone you care about. Perhaps they look a bit like your sister, whom you love and haven't seen in years. Just that resemblance is enough to make you feel warmth toward them. But here's the truth. They aren't your sister. Your feelings about them are not about them at all. They're about your own past experiences. Now, imagine someone tells you something negative about this person. Maybe a rumor or a comment that challenges your perception. In just 20 seconds, your feelings toward them shift. The next time you see this person, you no longer feel the same warmth or openness. Your mind justifies this shift as logical, but what really happened? You had one more experience, just one, that altered the sum of your learned experiences. And if someone later tells you the rumor wasn't true, or that it was just a joke, suddenly your feelings might swing back again. All of this happens because your psyche is constantly being shaped and reshaped by new experiences. Do you see how real this is? How easily your thoughts and emotions are influenced by external events? This is the psyche at work, the sum of your learned experiences, and you are caught in its grip. The problem is that you think this is you, but it's not. You are the one noticing all of this happen. You are the observer of your thoughts and feelings, not the thoughts and feelings themselves. So, can you evolve beyond this? Not by suppressing your mind or forcing it to be silent through sheer willpower. That's not the point. You don't need to fight your psyche or make it stop functioning. It's not about beating it into submission. Instead, it's about realizing what the psyche is and no longer being enslaved by it. You see, your mind is like a running program. It collects, processes, and reacts to data based on past experiences. It's incredibly useful, but it's not the ultimate truth of who you are. When you stop identifying with this program, when you see it for what it is, you begin to transcend it. This doesn't mean you stop having a psyche. It's still there, doing its job. But you are no longer controlled by it. You no longer let it define your reality. The real work is at this deeper level, stepping back, observing the mind, and learning not to listen to every little thing it says. Instead of reacting automatically, you recognize that your thoughts and feelings are just a result of past impressions. You don't suppress them or fight them. You simply don't get lost in them. This is what inner evolution is all about. Moving beyond the automatic patterns of your psyche and discovering the deeper, freer part of you that has always been there, watching. I'm not here to tell you how to live your life. That's your journey. But what I do want is to help you understand what's really happening inside you. Some people think the whole purpose of this inner work is to stop their mind from talking, to silence it completely. But that's not the goal. The real purpose is to evolve beyond being controlled by your mind's chatter. When you truly transcend it, the mind naturally becomes quieter. This quietness isn't forced. It happens because the mind no longer needs to complain or figure things out all the time. Why does the mind complain? Because it perceives problems with the world. As long as you're struggling with what's happening around you, your mind will react. It will complain, analyze, and strategize to fix or resist what it doesn't like. This keeps you endlessly busy, trapped in its noise. So it's not about destroying your mind, suppressing it, or even trying to stop it. It's about understanding why the mind is so noisy and why it constantly complains. And let's be honest, the mind does complain. A lot. I'm not judging you for that. Complaining is just what the mind does when reality doesn't match your expectations. But I challenge you to watch it closely. You'll see how much it complains, and how it justifies those complaints. For example, imagine it's a hot day, and you think, "It's so hot, I can't handle this heat." You don't even see that as complaining because it feels justified. What do you mean it's not complaining? It's 98 degrees outside. The mind creates a little world for itself, where its complaints make perfect sense. "I'm not complaining. You should have heard what she said to me." See how the mind rationalizes. But the truth is, it's still complaining. Complaining is just the mind's way of resisting reality. It doesn't like what's happening because it doesn't match what you want. Transcending and evolving internally doesn't mean you force the mind to stop. It doesn't mean you fight it or beat it into submission. It means stepping back and realizing you are not the mind. You are the consciousness, the awareness, observing the mind. People call this mindfulness, witness consciousness, or objective observation. It simply means resting back and being aware of what's happening inside you. And when you do this, you'll notice something surprising. The sheer amount of complaining your mind does. It will shock you. You complain about the driver in front of you, the temperature dropping, a tag in your clothes, gaining a pound, something someone said, or even something you think they might have said. The mind complains about a look someone gave you, an imagined insult, or a minor inconvenience. It's constant. And most of the time, you don't even realize it. When you truly wake up and see this, you start to shift. How do you deal with all that noise? By simply being the one who watches. Instead of identifying with the complaining, you observe it. Instead of being lost in the noise, you step back and notice it. Think of it like looking at a picture. You might like the picture or dislike it, but you're still just the one looking at it. You are not the picture itself. Similarly, when thoughts and feelings arise in response to the picture, attraction, repulsion, judgments, you're not those thoughts or feelings either. You are the awareness noticing them. That awareness, that consciousness, is who you truly are. This is where true evolution happens. You transcend the psyche, rising above its patterns and noise. At first, you might feel like you need to fight with your mind to find your center. That's normal. But eventually, you realize there's no need to fight. Fighting only creates more tension and resistance. Instead, you work with your mind, honoring and respecting what it's doing without being controlled by it. Fighting with your mind might quiet it temporarily, but it doesn't lead to true peace. Suppressing your thoughts or trying to force them away only creates more problems inside. Real growth comes when you let go of the need to control, resist, or judge your mind. Instead, you step back into the seat of awareness and watch it all unfold. When you do this, you find the freedom and clarity that comes from no longer being lost in the mind's endless chatter. When you can stay still and relaxed, no matter what's happening inside you, and just observe it, you begin to tap into something deeper. This doesn't mean you're saying okay or talking to yourself about what you're noticing. It's not about narrating. It's about pure awareness, simply being aware of what's there, without judgment or analysis. Now, if I asked you to experience what it means to just see, right now, without moving or doing anything, look at what's in front of you. Don't think about it. Don't try to analyze it. Just notice. How difficult is it to see what's there? It's not hard at all, right? You don't have to strain or put in any effort. You're just seeing. That's pure awareness. It's natural and effortless. Now, if it's so easy to just see what's in front of you, why can't you do the same thing with what's going on inside of you? Your consciousness, the part of you that is aware, can easily notice what's happening outside. So why not turn that same awareness inward? The truth is, you can do this. You're fully capable of it. But most people don't realize they can, because they're so identified with what's happening inside their minds that they forget to simply observe it. This ability to observe without reacting or interfering, that's what it means to evolve. That's what it means to transcend the personal self. You're not trying to beat your thoughts or feelings into submission. You're not trying to make them go away. Instead, you're stepping back and allowing yourself to see them clearly. And here's the beautiful part. As you step back, the mind naturally begins to quiet down. Why does this happen? Think of a still lake, perfectly calm like a mirror. Then a leaf falls into the water and ripples form. If you jump into the lake to try and stop the ripples, what happens? You create even more ripples. This is exactly what happens with your mind. When you resist or fight your thoughts, you stir things up even more. Instead of trying to control or silence your mind, honor what's happening. Sometimes the mind is just active, and that's okay. Some days you have a bad hair day, and some days you have a bad mind day. It's all part of being human. The key is to rest back into something deeper within yourself and simply notice. Notice your thoughts, feelings, and reactions without judgment. Just like you're aware of your external surroundings, you can become aware of your internal world. You know you're thinking, feeling, hearing, and experiencing. Notice that these are separate from you. There's a subject, you, a verb, seeing, feeling, thinking, and an object, what you're aware of. You are not the object. You are the one who is aware of it. Think about that. The true you is not the thoughts or emotions you experience. The true you is the awareness that observes those experiences. You are the consciousness behind it all. So why can't you just see what's happening inside as effortlessly as you see what's happening outside? The answer is simple. You can. It just takes practice, willingness, and spiritual growth. As you evolve, it will become as natural to observe your inner world as it is to see the world around you. One day, you'll simply sit back and notice your thoughts and feelings without reacting, just as easily as you see a tree or a car in front of you. And when you reach that state, it's because you've learned to let go and rest in your true self, the pure awareness that you are. Almost all the thoughts you're having come from learned experiences, which means none of them are neutral to you. Your mind creates powerful emotions and ideas like, oh no, what if this happens? Or, remember when that happened before? Or, wouldn't it be amazing if this happened? These thoughts and feelings are shaped by your past experiences. But not all of your past experiences come up in your thoughts. For example, how often do you sit and think about the white line you drove past last week? Probably never. On the other hand, how often do you think about something hurtful someone said to you last week? Probably a lot more. Your mind stores these emotionally charged experiences, and that's what resurfaces. This makes it hard for you to simply observe your thoughts because they trigger emotional reactions. So, the best thing is not to fight your thoughts, but to understand where they come from. As Buddhists say, you need to work on the root of the problem, but you can't address the root if you can't handle what's happening on the surface. If you're constantly reacting to every little thing, you'll never get to the deeper causes. This ability to not react is what makes someone a great spiritual person or a true yogi. It's not about knowledge or wisdom. It's about staying calm and not letting your emotions or thoughts control you. If you react to every little thing, like jumping into a lake every time there's a ripple, it just creates more chaos. Most of us do this. We're constantly reacting to what our mind and emotions throw at us. The goal isn't to fight your thoughts, stop your mind, or control your emotions, so everything always feels good. Sure, in the beginning, you might focus on improving your relationships or making things smoother because that's all you can handle for now. And that's fine. But eventually, you'll need to get to a place where you're strong, clear, and centered enough that things can happen inside your mind without pulling you in. For instance, if a thought like, I wonder what she meant by that, arises, you can just let it go. There's no need to explore it further. Why? Because it doesn't matter. You understand that people have moods, say things impulsively, or that you might have misunderstood them. When you reach that level of maturity, you stop letting these small things drag you down. Have you ever misunderstood what someone meant? Or assumed you knew what they meant without asking? The truth is, you can't know unless you ask. But instead, you often assume you're right. What happens when you realize how wrong you are? You can't fully understand another person. You only see your reaction to them, and that reaction is shaped by your past experiences. Meanwhile, their behavior comes from their own unique experiences. The deeper work, the real growth, is about moving beyond reacting to what you see in others. Spiritual growth means learning to stay calm, clear, and centered no matter what's happening around you. Your reactions are often shaped by your inner state, and that inner state is influenced by the outer world until you've worked on yourself enough to stay unaffected. Once you reach that clarity, things will just pass through you without causing so much emotional noise. True spiritual growth is about understanding that life is a beautiful, temporary experience. You're here for a short while, and it's meant to be joyful. Not in the sense of partying, but in a deeper, constant state of inner peace and ecstasy. That joy comes from the energy inside you, which is far greater than anything you can experience outside. Even the most intimate or meaningful moment you've ever had can't compare to the beauty that's always present within you. The real treasure is discovering that limitless joy inside yourself. If you want to create trouble for yourself, go ahead. Because that's exactly what happens when you step away from your natural state. Your natural state is one of peace, joy, and a very high level of being. The problem is, you've conditioned yourself to only feel good when you're getting what you want. That means you're constantly reacting to life, which makes things so complicated and exhausting. It's like a form of self-torture. I often hear people ask, what does it mean to evolve spiritually? Isn't God already perfect? Why does anything need to evolve? Here's the answer. The fall from the garden means that one ray of consciousness, you, got attached. You became attached to your thoughts, your emotions, and everything else outside of your true self. Instead of simply observing your thoughts, you started identifying with them. Let me be clear. There's nothing wrong with thoughts or emotions. There's nothing wrong with anything in this world. Men, women, rain, sunshine, emotions, all of it. These are just parts of the beautiful and interesting world we live in. The issue arises when you become so attached to these things that you lose sight of who you really are. Consciousness, your true self, is separate from the things you observe. When you look at something, it's not you. It's simply what you're looking at. For example, your car isn't you. You existed before you had a car, and if the car disappears, you'll still exist. The same is true for relationships. Your spouse, your children, they're not you. They're part of your life, but you're the one observing them. You existed before they came into your life, and you'll still exist if they go away. The problem is that you react so strongly to what you see and feel that you get pulled into it. You become so distracted by your thoughts and emotions that you think they define you. You say things like, I am this thought, or I feel this way, so this is who I am. Then you start acting according to those beliefs. Spiritual growth or evolution happens when you stop identifying with your thoughts and emotions and start simply noticing them. The goal isn't to make your thoughts and emotions disappear. That's impossible. If you try to suppress what's happening inside you, it will only come back stronger because everything happens for a reason. Every thought, emotion, or reaction has a cause, often rooted in your past experiences. When you resist what's happening inside you, you create even more chaos. It's like pushing a ball underwater. It'll pop back up as soon as you let go. Or think of the Hoover Dam. It was built to stop a river, but the river hasn't stopped. It's constantly pressing against the dam, and it always will. Fighting against the natural flow of things, whether in nature or within yourself, only leads to frustration and exhaustion. That doesn't mean you shouldn't build a dam or take action in life. It just means you need to understand what's really happening. If you fight against your inner experiences, the best you can do is temporarily suppress them. But the underlying cause remains, and it'll resurface eventually. Even the negative or troubling thoughts in your mind exist for a reason, often tied to past experiences. The key isn't to fight or control them. It's to understand them, observe them, and let them pass without getting caught up in them. If you fight against your inner struggles, the best you can do is cover them up and make them look good on the outside. But deep down, nothing is truly resolved. Why? Because you haven't dealt with the root cause of why things are the way they are. Deep spirituality isn't about ignoring or suppressing. It's about saying, let me handle this enough to understand what's really going on, and let me address that. When something unpleasant happened, you didn't want to face it, so you pushed it away. But here's the truth. Those things didn't disappear. Suppressing them is like pushing a ball underwater. It doesn't go away. It just stays under pressure, waiting to resurface. The same goes for your energy. Your natural energy is meant to flow freely, like a river. When you suppress things, it's like building a dam in that river. The energy keeps trying to move, but now it's blocked. You see the effects of this in your dreams, your moods, and even your drives. Your energy is supposed to rise naturally, passing through all the centers of your being, what some call chakras. This energy flow is effortless and elevates you as it moves higher. It's like a rocket, passing through stages, gaining more and more power. If left uninterrupted, this energy feeds and sustains you. This is what Christ meant when he said, "Man does not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes from the mouth of God." He wasn't just talking about physical sustenance, but the flow of divine energy within you. This energy, sometimes called life force or spirit, flows from the source and nourishes you from the inside. But here's the problem. Over time, you've disrupted that natural flow by pushing things down. When you suppress emotions, thoughts, and experiences you don't like, they block this energy. That's why you feel stuck, weighed down, or out of balance. The key isn't to fight the results of this suppression, like bad moods, reactive behavior, or tension. The key is to deal with the root cause, the suppression itself. Whether you call it suppression, repression, resistance, or non-acceptance, it all boils down to one thing. You couldn't handle certain energies, so you push them down. That's what causes the inner chaos. And then, to make matters worse, you react to that chaos. When you store every little thing that bothers you, your inner world becomes cluttered and heavy. Imagine if you kept everything that upset you. How could you ever feel free? Instead of fighting to fix the mess, stop adding to it. That's the core of true spiritual growth, learning not to store negativity. So, what is evolution? True evolution, internal and spiritual, is the ability to remain seated in your consciousness. It's about being able to observe your mind and heart without getting lost in them. Just like you can observe the outside world as neutral, you can learn to observe your inner world the same way. Your mind might say all kinds of things, good, bad, or even shocking, and that's fine. The key is to stay centered, to watch it without identifying with it. When you stop resisting and start observing, you allow the natural flow of energy to move through you. That's when you begin to truly evolve. The mind is only repeating what it's learned from your past experiences. It's the same with your emotions. They are reactions stored inside you, like blockages in a flowing river. When energy tries to flow but hits these blockages, it creates emotional turbulence, like rapids or whirlpools in water. Psychology teaches us not to suppress our emotions, because suppression leads to bigger problems. Instead, it encourages us to explore and understand them, which is helpful. But yoga goes deeper. Yoga asks, why are these emotions even happening? The yogis discovered that emotions come from blockages inside us. When energy, Shakti, flows and hits these blockages, it creates feelings like love, hate, jealousy, or insecurity. These are just the results of energy hitting the rocks in your river. Yogis don't suppress these emotions, they release the blockages. By doing this, the energy flows freely and the emotional turbulence disappears. This is a deeper way of dealing with emotions and finding peace. When you release the blockages inside you and stop creating new ones, something amazing happens. That's when you begin to understand what the masters were talking about. They've been where you are, and they've gone far beyond. Their teachings are like signposts, guiding you and saying, you're not there yet, but you're on the right path. As you progress, you'll discover that when the energy flows freely without hitting blockages, it's truly beautiful. It's everything Christ spoke of, everything the great masters of yoga described. In yoga, this energy is called Shakti, the Shakti flow. This energy is always flowing. Even the emotions or reactions that burst out when the energy hits blockages are still Shakti. Just like water doesn't stop being water when it hits a rock, energy doesn't stop being energy when it encounters resistance. It just behaves differently. When there are no blockages, the flow becomes the most beautiful thing you can experience. It fulfills you in a way nothing else can. This is the only thing that can truly satisfy you. Once the energy flows freely, there are no more fears, no more insecurities. Why? Because the ego, which is built around your past experiences, no longer control you. This doesn't mean those past experiences disappear. They might still be there, but they no longer affect you. For example, someone might say something to you, and you'll notice it, but it won't trigger you or cause any problems. When you stop resisting what's inside you, it naturally quiets down. Without a fight, there's no reason for it to react. It just settles on its own. You don't have to fight your way to peace. In the end, it's not about forcing things with willpower. It's about surrender. When you let go, the energy flows naturally. Think about a dam holding back a river, like the Hoover Dam and the Colorado River. It takes immense effort to hold the river back. But what happens if you start removing the dam? The river flows effortlessly. You don't need any willpower to make the river flow. It's its natural state. That's what it's like to reach your highest spiritual state. It doesn't take effort to create or control the flow. You simply let go, and the energy will naturally rise, pulling you upward. It's a process of surrender, not struggle. Now, it's important to be honest with yourself and really look at this. This is what consciousness is about, being able to sit with yourself and see what's going on inside. When you start to deal with that inner voice, instead of letting it control you, everything changes. People often say, "My whole life changed," and it will. Your life will change if you stop letting yourself get dragged down by the voice. It will change even more if you stop storing your emotional baggage inside. And it will transform completely when you commit to facing the pain you've already stored and letting it go. Here's the truth. If you pushed pain down inside yourself, it's going to come back up as pain. Someone once asked me, does it have to be that way? Yes. If you stored something painful, it will come back painful. If you stored sadness, anger, or fear, that's exactly what will return when it resurfaces. Why does this happen? Because when something was too much for you to handle, you pushed it down to avoid dealing with it. But pushing it down doesn't make it disappear. It stays inside you, and eventually it must come back up and pass through you so you can be free of it. You might think, why is this my problem? Can't someone else fix it for me? The answer is no. You're the one who pushed it down. Only you can let it go. This isn't about blame or judgment. It's just how it works. You must decide, I don't want to carry this pain anymore. I'm ready to let it go. You can't expect someone else to fix what's inside you. Not your spouse, not your family, no one. It's your inner world. Only you have the power to free yourself from it. Now, let's be honest. It's messy in there. You know it. There's insecurity, fear, embarrassment, self-consciousness, neediness, and so much more. You don't want to look at it because it's overwhelming. But here's the thing. If you don't see it, you can't deal with it. Be grateful that you can see what's going on inside, because that's the first step. You have to respect and accept where you are, just like you respect gravity when you want to fly. If you ignore it, you won't get anywhere. But seeing it isn't enough. Just realizing the mess is there doesn't mean it's gone. The emotional baggage you've stored inside has been there a long time. It has roots. Letting go takes work. It takes patience, commitment, and courage. But when you're willing to face it, something incredible happens. You free yourself bit by bit, and life opens up in ways you never imagined. Now, here's the technique for real. I don't have a 15-step program or a 12-step guide. It's simple. Here's your first step. Don't put any more stuff in there. That's it. Go through your day, and when things happen that bother you, little things, like the rain, someone cutting you off in traffic, something your spouse said, or whatever, just relax and let it go. Try to get through the day without piling on more baggage. Sure, something might make you uncomfortable, but so what? Life is full of challenges. Look at what people go through. Take Olympic athletes, for example. They train and push themselves for years, putting their bodies and minds through incredible struggle, all for one shot at greatness. Or think about people who survive wars, or women who go through childbirth. A friend of mine had a baby recently, and she didn't get any medication. When I asked her how it felt, she said, "I'll never go through that again." It was that painful. But guess what? People often come back for seconds or thirds. Why? Because they want the end result. That's the mindset you need. If you don't want your life to stay full of junk and stress, you've got to stop adding more to the pile. That's step one. Don't put any more stuff in there. Here's the truth. Most of the things you hold on to are just tiny, stupid little moments. The driver didn't use their blinker. Someone was driving too slow, or the light turned red when you wanted it to stay green. Maybe you're planning a camping trip, and you see one cloud in the sky the night before. And suddenly you're thinking, oh no, what if it rains? Then it's complain, worry, complain, judge, repeat. Stop it. Let it go. Work on letting it go. These little things aren't worth it. Now, next step is just as important. Once you stop putting new stuff in there, the old stuff you've been holding on to will start coming back up. And trust me, it will. That's just how it works. It's like a stack. Last in, first out. The last thing you push down is what will come up first. When that old stuff starts rising to the surface, don't just tolerate it. Want it to happen. Be ready for it. Think about why people are willing to go through pain to achieve something amazing, like winning a gold medal or bringing a new life into the world. It's because the end result is worth it. But here, we're not just talking about external achievements. We're talking about feeling true joy, true freedom, and true peace in every moment of your life. That's the ultimate reward. So, when the old stuff comes up, and yes, it's going to hurt, because that's why you pushed it down in the first place. Don't fight it. Let it rise. Face it. Work through it. Ask yourself, am I willing to go through this for something bigger? Because the pain you're feeling isn't the end. It's the beginning of your transformation. That's it. Stop adding more and embrace what's already there when it comes up. Let it go and let yourself grow. Eventually, you'll get to a point where you're strong, focused, and committed enough to handle what life throws at you. That's where meditation, techniques, and all the other tools come in. They help you get centered. When you're ready, you'll be able to say, bring it on. I don't want this negativity inside me anymore. You'll realize that you can't live a life of love, joy, and service if you're constantly complaining and struggling. And why are you complaining and struggling? Because of all the junk you've been carrying inside for years. Here's the thing. If your happiness depends on life matching up perfectly with your expectations, you're always going to struggle. The goal is to be okay no matter what's happening around you. That doesn't mean you won't feel pain, like when someone you love dies. Pain like that is natural, even beautiful, because it shows how deeply you care. It's a part of love and connection. You don't suppress that pain. You let yourself feel it, and it passes in time. To live a full life, you need to stay open. Let emotions and thoughts come and go. Don't hold on to them, don't judge them, and don't resist them. Just let them pass through. You'll be amazed at how quickly things start to clear out on their own. One day, you might just be driving along, and suddenly a memory or emotion from 30 years ago will pop up. Instead of fighting it, welcome it. This is the key. When old emotions or wounds come to the surface, don't just cope with them. Welcome them. Celebrate them. When they rise up, say, I don't want you inside me anymore. Thank you for coming up so I can finally let you go. At some point, you might even apologize to those feelings for shoving them down in the first place. It wasn't their fault. They happened because of an event you couldn't handle at the time. So, you buried them. Now, as they come up, stay calm, welcome them, and let them release. Thank you for listening.